Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Powerful Women Rising podcast. I think this is the first introduction that has actually matched the new name of the podcast. I batch these out and I send them way in advance to my editor. And so I think I switched the name of the podcast, but didn't switch the introductions. So welcome. In case you haven't noticed, we changed the name. It is now the Powerful Women Rising podcast. Same topics, same awesome interviews, same amazing, brilliant women, still talking about business relationships, but now it's called the Powerful Women Rising podcast because that's who it's for, and that's who it's about, and that's who it's by. So here we are with another episode. This one is so good. This is your relationship with your business attorney. And full disclosure, this podcast was so good, I hired DeAnn right after the podcast because I was like, okay, I'm convinced. I need you. Please help me. DeAnn is a business attorney, and she's also a strategic business growth expert, which is an awesome combination. She's helped thousands of entrepreneurs to establish proper legal structures that form the foundation for a successful business. She is a renowned attorney that has been recognized as a woman to watch by the Los Angeles Business Journal and a woman of entrepreneurship by the Los Angeles Lakers and Comerica Bank. She is so incredibly smart, and the thing I love so much about this episode is that there is so much that you don't know and so many things that could happen in your business that you don't even think about in advance until it's too late. So I love everything that DeAnn shares about how to protect yourself and why it is so important, even if you're just getting started in business. So without further ado, this is my interview with DeAnn Chase about your relationship with your business attorney. Hello, DeAnn. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Melissa. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, so excited. I was just telling you before we started recording that I've been very excited for your interview to talk about your relationship with your business attorney, because I think this is something that a lot of people don't think of, especially in the beginning of their business. And I know you have a lot of valuable experience and insight to share with listeners. So I'm excited to dig in. But before we get started, tell everybody a little bit about you.
Sure. So I am a business attorney. I've been practicing law for about 25 years. I am also a mom myself, a mom of now my kids are, 19 and 21. And I started my law practice to be able to work around my kids' school schedules. So, I am a mompreneur myself. And so my law practice is Chase Law Group, and we work exclusively with entrepreneurs, small business owners, and professional practice owners. And so we advise on all legal structures relating to the business itself.
Awesome. I love it. So let's dig into this. We were talking before we started recording about every entrepreneur needs a business attorney. And I think sometimes, like you were saying, when we want to save money, especially in the beginning of business, where it's like everything costs money and we are just really needing to make money. Why do you think that every entrepreneur needs a business attorney?
So I think it's so important that you have a relationship with an attorney before a problem arises. Right. So you don't want to wait until something comes up and then you're like, oh, who do I call? And I need to deal with this situation urgently or what have you. And then I think having a relationship with an attorney at the start of your business and as you to build that foundation and as you grow, it's so important because, you don't know what you don't know. Right. And I see people all the time that just get bit. And it's like they didn't even kind of think about a particular situation. So, different things like one of the situations I'm working on right now is I have a client who came to me when a lawsuit had been served against her and she had a dispute with a client, but they didn't have a written agreement, a written contract. They had just email exchanges back and forth. And so she's located here in California. The woman she was doing business with is located in Nebraska. And when they had the dispute, her client sued her in Nebraska.
Mm.
And, and now she's in the situation where she has to defend a case in Nebraska, when if she had a written agreement in the first place that said, if we have a dispute, particularly, everything's over the internet, we're doing business across, the state lines. And so if she had a contract that said, if we have a dispute, you have to come to me right here in California. And, if we have a dispute and I win, then I get, my attorney's fees. So the cost of hiring a lawyer to defend against a case, that you may have. So it's just working with an attorney from the start. An attorney can help guide you just on the issues you need to be watching out for before you ever kind of get that far down the road.
Mm-hmm. I think for a lot of people, when they hear that, they think, well, that's something that's not going to happen to me.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Right. This is really a bummer for that lady, but that's not going to happen to me because my clients are all nice people. And
Right.
if somebody's not happy, I'll just give them their money back and we'll all just go on with our lives. So I'm sure that you have seen enough to be able to kind of speak to that. So if people are thinking that while they're listening, what's your thought on that?
It only takes one, right? And what I see, so particularly, and particularly with my women clients, right? We want to work together. When we're starting out together, we have such grand ideas and such warm relationships on the front end of our relationships, right? Where, this is going to be the next best thing. And this person I'm working with, I trust them, we have mutual respect. But unfortunately, uh, when relationships decline, that's when kind of you realize that the person maybe you're in business with, for example, maybe it ends up not being the right choice. So you can't always know right
Mm-hmm.
from the start. But again, unfortunately, when things go bad, they can go really bad really fast. I mean, whether you have, like I said, a contract dispute, or you go into business with a partner and then all of a sudden, your partner's doing things, not telling you, taking money, making promises here, spending money here. And then, when the situation declines, so does the ability to communicate and to think reasonably, right? So again, it's about just putting these roadblocks in place in case something goes wrong.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of times there's a different side of people that comes out when money is involved, right? I think a lot of people have experience with this when someone passes away and there's an estate or there's an inheritance or things aren't
Mhm.
really clear and everybody's grabbing for something. And it's like, these are my family members that I never thought would act like that. But
Right.
when money's involved, people can change pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I say that, and in partnerships in particular, strategic partnerships or joint ventures, all of that, I say they all come down to time, money, and ego, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's who's doing what, right? Who is working in the business? Because that's what happens. Somebody's working in the business, and particularly if the business isn't doing well. So then one person's working the business, but then the other person, is like, I know need to go get a job. And then the other person who's running the business is like, wait, I'm running the business. Where are you? Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's time and money and ego. And so again, it's just important to have that relationship, with an attorney from the start that can kind of just guide you on what to watch out for.
Yeah. So, how
Mhm.
would that work if I was brand new to business? Do I
Mhm.
need to like pay to have an attorney on retainer? Am I able to go talk to an attorney and pay for an hour of their time and say,
Mhm.
hey, I'm brand new. What do I need to do? Or I'm thinking about going into this partnership. What do I do? Like, what would be the first step for someone?
Yeah, so I think first you'd want to identify a business attorney that's local to you, um, is usually a good starting point. And the best way to locate an attorney, I usually recommend going to your local chamber of commerce, because a lot of times attorneys that are local to you will be a member of that sort of an organization.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and or you might find someone like, our firm, we work with clients nationally. So some of our clients find us, just through Google or the internet, or I'm giving a speaking gig or what have you. But if you're getting to those points where, yeah, you're starting a business, some people say, I'm going to wait until I get a little, I get going, and then maybe I'll then reach out to a lawyer. So I think it's better to start out on the front end and to reach out. And a lot of lawyers will offer like an initial complimentary consultation, or they'll charge a consultation fee that gets applied to your fees once you start working with them, because you're going to want to ask these questions. You're going to want to ask, what is the best business structure for me? A lot of people starting out, maybe a sole proprietor, but should they form a business entity like an LLC or a corporation? And what's the best type of business entity? And what do I need to do? Right.
Mhm.
And then the attorney can also let you know about issues of hiring when you're building and growing and scaling, and you need to hire a team. Well, you have to be very careful about that, because you want to know, are the people that you're hiring, are they independent contractors, or are they your employees? Because the laws, I'm in California, so they're particularly strict here in California, but even, across the nation, the issue of whether someone you hire to perform services in your business, whether that person's an independent contractor or an employee, is an issue. And if you make a mistake and you wrongfully classify someone as an independent contractor that is presumed to be your employee, you can get hit with a lot of problems really fast. And the problems can come either from the individual that you hire. Again, maybe you all start off in good terms and you have to terminate the contract. Then you have that person making a claim against you that, oh, wait, I was really, your employee, and you didn't pay me for my overtime or my wages and my hours, or all of that. So you want to, make sure that those bases are covered.
Yeah. Yeah. So much stuff that we don't think about
Yeah.
until it happens.
Right.
As you're
Exactly.
talking, I'm thinking about a friend of mine that is an entrepreneur and hired someone to do social media for her. And it
Mhm.
wasn't clear this person was creating the content. And I don't think it was clear anywhere in a binding contract who owned that content that was being created. And
Right.
so when that relationship ended, the person
Mhm.
that was creating the content took all the content with them.
Yeah.
And it was it's a whole thing. So
It
it's
was
like,
a big problem. And
mhm,
I mean, I see that all the time, because what people don't realize is, like, if you hire someone to create content or to create a logo even, or anything where they're kind of creating intellectual property, uh, if the person that you hire is an independent contractor, by default, that person owns whatever's created, right? If you have an employee and they're creating content or what have you, then you own it. But if it's contractor, they own it, unless you have a written contract that says otherwise.
mhm,
So very, very important to make sure that that's in place, because particularly, a lot of people say to me, well, I don't have a lot of money or assets right now that to protect. So, again, I'm going to wait until I get further down the road. But unfortunately, by then, you have to think about, you're creating a brand, and ideally you're in business to make money and to grow, and you want to know that that brand is going to be solid, as you move forward. So if you hire someone to do a logo, for example, and then you decide you want to, you've got a great idea or a brand, and now somebody wants you, franchise it or license it. Well, technically, your designer owns it, right?
yeah,
So you should at least have something that says, anything you create, I own. And important to think about, particularly if we're talking about content and, something that's creative, because in your mind, you, like, for a logo or a brand, and you're hiring someone, you have kind of like a certain look and feel you're going for. And maybe you hire someone that maybe doesn't, once you start working, you're like, this isn't really working. Well, if that person that you're working with owns the output, right, for whatever they've done, like, say maybe you hire them for phase one, you're midway through phase one and you realize this relationship's not working out, but now you've created things, then you want to be able to pull the plug right then and there and take whatever they have as is, so you can then take it to someone else to build on rather than starting from scratch.
Right.
But unfortunately, if you don't have a written contract with some of the creative professionals, they can hold you hostage. They can just hold your
Mm-hmm.
stuff and say, well, okay, you can go, but everything I've created, I own. So ownership is a big issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you started to touch on this a little bit in the beginning of our conversation. And I keep thinking when we're talking about why, in particular, this stuff is sometimes harder for female entrepreneurs. And I'm thinking about these contracts and these agreements, and I need you to sign this. And I just keep thinking, like, there's got to be so many women that are like, but that's not nice. Like I want to be, I want to be nice. I don't want to offend this person, right? I don't
Yeah.
want to imply it's like a prenuptial agreement. It's like I don't want
Yeah.
to imply that at some point this relationship might end because we both want to think that it's going to last forever and it's going to be fabulous.
Yeah.
So is that part of it? And what else do you see, particularly from women?
Yeah, I mean, I have to say it's very unfortunate, being that we're going in, the 2023, 2024, in this age where we as women should have more confidence in ourselves, right? Should have a more professional mindset, I have to say. I think sometimes my women clients in particular, they have mindset issues. They have confidence issues. They don't want to be too legal, right? They don't want to scare someone off by presenting them with a contract that's too legal, right? And or they or they're very. I mean, every entrepreneur, of course, is concerned with the bottom line, but when you think about it this way, and I may be saying something a little bit, confrontational or what have you, but a woman will spend $250 on a pair of shoes, but won't spend $250 for a 30-minute session with a lawyer to say, hey, you need this contract, you need this LLC,
Yeah.
you need these things in place.
Yeah.
And so, I was just it's mindset for women in particular, like you said. I mean, they're concerned about hurting someone's feelings. They're concerned about putting off someone, and so they're not always as professional or thinking from a business mindset. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
almost too personal, and maybe it's too personal sometimes.
And I think part of it too is I meet so many women who get into business because they want to do the thing that they want to do. It's like
Yeah.
I had no idea what I was getting into when I became self employed. I wanted to be a coach, I wanted to do dating and relationships. I went through my coach certification. I knew I was ready. And then I was like, who wants coaching? Like, this is just what we're going to do. And then someone said, me, I do. And I said, great, here's the cost. Now I'll coach you. Have a nice life. Right. And so we don't really know. I actually remember reading like starting a business for dummies or something like that, which was actually helpful. But we
Sure.
don't even have any idea about any of this stuff. We just think, I want to make my product. I want to do my service. I want to do whatever this thing is. I don't want to do sales and marketing and law and accounting and all of this stuff that
Yeah.
also goes into owning a business. And so it's like not even on our radar, I think.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why I do think it's true. I think that we as women have a tendency to jump, right? To jump forward and to be so excited and passionate about what we're doing that maybe we don't take the time sometimes to do the planning. Like
Mm-hmm.
put together a business plan. It seems kind of basic. And by the way, it doesn't have to be some 30-page thing. I mean, it could just be you write out on and just a Word document, but put together a plan and put together a budget, right? And so, and and I'm an entrepreneur myself. So I've had so many ideas myself. I'm buying domains left and right, right? And without sometimes thinking about, does somebody really need this or is someone already doing it? And then if so, how do I make a better product? How do I, make a service that's unique and special and that sort of thing? So there's a certain level of planning, right, that needs to take place. And then through that process, and it's educating yourself. Like even if you're reading a book, business for dummies or what have you. I do a lot of workshops on, independent contractor law and what's the difference between an LLC and a corporation. Like, go to workshops, educate yourself on business, just the basics of business. So at least you have an idea of the big picture, because it's true when we start up, we don't know all of the things, right? We do what we do really well. We didn't go to business school. We didn't go to law school, many of us, and some of us did, but that doesn't necessarily even mean that they're doing things the right way, right? But I think that you need to have a community, like your community, where you have other people who've been there, done that, and can give you guidance and resources and, give you a hand up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So what would you say are like the three main aspects of business that female entrepreneurs need to be mindful of when it comes to
Planning, right?
Mhm.
Mindset and protection, right? So on the planning side, like I said, I mean, they really need to just start with, your vision and write things down and then educate yourself, right?
Mhm.
And mindset, work on your mindset, right? Kind of think very professionally and realize that you're in business. So you need to you need to spend money to make money, right? So work on the money mindset, as particularly as women entrepreneurs. And then protection. And so for me, for protection, my background is I spent the first 10 years of my career in courthouses defending businesses that were being sued. So I saw firsthand what can happen when a dispute ends up in a courtroom. So you need to protect yourself, and protection comes from insurance, right? Having the right kinds of insurance, having a basic commercial business insurance policy, having the right kinds of insurance, because the insurance company is not your friend. So you want to make sure that you have that. But then, insurance is about exclusions and limits. So you need to have a solid business entity, an LLC. My general preference is an LLC and not a corporation for small businesses, unless you need to be a corporation. Like in California, some professionals, chiropractors, veterinarians, psychologists need to be a professional corporation. Otherwise,
Mhm.
have an LLC. So you have insurance, you have the entity to provide you with personal liability protection, and then you need to have a solid written contract. And the contract says what you're doing, what you're not doing. If you have a dispute, where are you going to end up in court? Like those
Mhm.
those are the biggies.
Yeah. That's very, very smart. I
Mhm.
remember having a conversation with a friend of mine who is a business coach, and I was newer in business, but I'd been in business for an embarrassingly long time with what I'm about to say. And she said something about business insurance, and well, doesn't your business insurance blah blah blah? And I was like, my what? I don't. And she was like almost fell out of her chair. She's like, please tell me you have business insurance. I'm like, I didn't even know that was a thing.
No, no. And for a lot of my home-based business clients, like they think that if they're home, I mean, you think about homeowners, right? You think about, oh, bundle your auto and your homeowner's insurance. Well, but homeowners insurance doesn't cover a commercial loss. So and that's where the insurance company is not your friend, right? They're not going out of
Mhm.
their way to provide you with that insurance coverage. So if you're running, a home-based business and you have clients or customers coming to your home and they get injured and they sue you, your homeowner's insurance is not going to cover that.
Mhm.
So you need to have a business insurance policy. I also just a tip that I advise for my home-based businesses is realize that if you do file for a business entity and you're using your home address appears as a matter of public record. So I usually recommend that you get a corporate mailbox, not a PO box, but a corporate mailbox that gives you, a virtual office or something that gives you a physical address. So you
Mhm.
use that for all your business purposes. So you don't disclose where your home is. Every entrepreneur should have a business entity like an LLC or corporation. But if you don't, if you're operating as sole proprietor, then you should still get a tax identification number for your sole proprietorship rather than using your social security number, right, for these things. So, yeah.
Please have a separate bank account while we're on that topic.
Well, especially if you have a business entity. So if you have an LLC or corporation, you must have a separate bank account, and those bank accounts should be under the tax identification number for the entity. And a key component of, of having the liability protection that comes with having that business entity is to maintain that entity separate from you. You are not your business entity, right? So if you were to be sued and someone wants to, what's called pierce through the corporate veil of protection to get through to your personal assets, the way they do that is by showing that you have failed to respect the separate existence of the entity by having separate bank accounts or paying personal expenses from the corporate bank account, right? So I say never write a check from the corporate bank account or put a charge on the, LLC or corporate credit card that you can't justify through your tax advisor.
Yeah, that's very smart. Very smart.
Yeah.
Is there any other advice that you have? I mean, I'm sure there's a lot and you don't have to give us all your information, but is there any other advice that you have for women business owners to make sure that they're legally protected?
Well, I think that we covered a lot of the things today, right? It's just be aware of kind of where your pitfalls are, where the landmines are, and that comes from unfortunately, anytime you're doing business with other people, you're reaching out, in relationships, whether you're hiring or your people are hiring you, then I think that's really something that you need to be watching out for.
Yeah. Yeah. And don't keep your head buried in the sand, believing this is never going to happen to me. I only do business with nice people, because even nice people sue people.
Yes. Well, and the thing is even nice people, if something bad happens to them, then they're going to be looking around for somebody to pay for it. So, and again, it's sometimes it's not even that they're looking to, they don't have a vendetta against you necessarily, but if somebody's injured and maybe they do or don't have medical insurance or what have you, and they happen to be on your property, they're gonna sue you. They could be nice, but they're still gonna sue you because they need, or expect someone else to pay for their injuries, for example. Right. So there are just so many different ways. So insurance entities have a relationship with a lawyer, and it could just simply be to have just that one consult, where you kind of say high level, what do I need to be looking for? What do I need to be aware of?
Yeah, absolutely. Such good advice. So if anybody wants to reach out to you, if they want to know more about what you do and your services, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
Sure. Well, I do have a free resource. It's the top 5 legal mistakes business owners make. So it is kind of high level, puts those, kind of covers the things that we talked about. And that's if you text BizLaw, BIZLAW to 26786. So BizLaw to 26786. So that's like high level of things to look out for, like we've been talking about. And then otherwise, you can reach me probably best by going to my website, which is chaselawmb for Manhattan Beach, California.com. So chaselawmb.com. And yeah, I think that's it.
Awesome. I will put the website, and I will also put the text number and the BizLaw in the show notes so everyone can go get that. Sounds Great. Very, very helpful. And I really appreciate you coming. You shared so much wisdom with us today, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. I mean, for me, my mission is really to educate entrepreneurs on all these legal issues that you may or may not be aware of. And I think in particularly, amongst women, we need to support each other, and we need to be a resource. And I think that, doing what you do is so important for us to keep in mind that we're here to support one another.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, DeAnn.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Powerful Women Rising podcast. If you liked what you heard, please be sure to subscribe so you don't miss another episode. You can also check us out on our YouTube channel, which is Powerful Women Rising. And we love to read your reviews either on iTunes or on YouTube. We just love to hear from you. If you are interested in connecting with DeAnn, definitely click the links in the comments and be sure to follow me on Instagram. That link's in the comments. And you can also check out more about the Powerful Women Rising community. That link is also in the comments. Have a great rest of your week.